Welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter Community Radio and Podcast. Amy Bett joins me today from Barwon Heads in Victoria. Welcome in, Amy.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Really excited for this chat.
Yeah, look, I'll get into the topic in a minute, but let me talk about it now. It's going to be about how to manage cash flow better, and it's never been a better time for business owners to think about that. So, but we'll drill into that. Plus, also talk a little bit about your business background as an entrepreneur and an owner. So, would you like to give us a minute or so on your personal background, Amy, please?
Yeah, sure. So I basically got thrown into business ownership after my husband suffered a brain injury. We both worked for the Cotton On Group, and we both loved our jobs, but I was going on maternity leave. He had a brain injury that ended his career, and so I was forced to take on a new step because I couldn't actually go back and work full time and have this baby at home. My husband couldn't take care of her. So I jumped into a corporate events business, funnily enough. I was lucky that I had a lot of great relationships in Geelong. And so business picked up really, really quickly for me. I was quickly organising events for the likes of Country Road and David Jones, Barwon Health Foundation, Cotton On. I was doing these big, large-scale events that were doing really well, raising great money for communities, and it looked really successful on the outside. But I was struggling so much with managing my own cash flow. I went from having, a multi-million-dollar budget at the Cotton On Group where money was, there and available, to bootstrapping this business. But not only that, it was the extra layers of, taxation and what you charge for your services and, how much to pay yourself and all the things that you don't really think about when you're just going into getting a service done. And
being really good at that bit of it, but can fall apart rapidly.
And that it did. And I wasn't really, it fell apart. I did the business for 3 years, but I just kept getting tripped up with inconsistent cash flow and just not knowing how to fix it. So my confidence as a business owner was basically in the toilet because I'm like, I'm good at what I do, but I'm not a business owner because I can't manage cash flow. And so, I closed the business and was ashamed for a while and licked my wounds. And that, I guess, inspired me to go on this journey of becoming a profit-first professional because I knew I'd still wanted to be a business owner. I was actually quite passionate about the opportunity of unlimited income and time freedom that I had found in my previous business. That's kind of what sparked the journey.
That's so when it comes from that place where, like a combination of you've got to take responsibility and, and earn revenue and also to learn from those experiences is capitalize on that now by, advising other owners and we're all up for good advice from other owners who have got something, valuable to share. So that's it is a great place to start. Can you talk a little bit about because the environment at the moment it seems like it's always challenging, but maybe even a little bit more. But what never goes away is this need to properly manage your cash flow. And so you're part of, is it Profit First is a grouping of, tell us about Profit First and it's how it works with owners on cash flow.
Sure. Okay. So Profit First, for anyone that hasn't heard of it before, it actually is a book that was written by an entrepreneur over in America. His name is Mark Michalowicz, and it's a cash flow method for basically breaking up your finances and having cash flow clarity so that you know exactly how much you need to be spending in every area and you're actually able to put profit first. But it now, I guess the book really took off and a lot of people resonated with the method, but you know what it's like when you read a book and you don't necessarily apply all of the methods, or there's something that doesn't resonate and so you give up and you don't actually go and implement it. Well, Mike saw the need to have Profit First professionals that would help business owners to actually tailor the method to your business. So there is an organization there are organisations all over the world, but in Australia, we have a Profit First Professionals organisation that is made up of accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches. I'm one of the coaches. And basically, we work with business owners all over Australia to help them to tailor the method to their business and actually really have a solid understanding of how much money they've got and how much they can spend.
Okay, so the methodology outlined in the book you've converted or taken and formed into a practically relevant program that group you talked about deliver through to their clients.
Yeah, and it's really practical and it's really an easily digestible method, because I think that's the biggest thing that business owners struggle with is feeling like they haven't got a money brain or a financial head, and then they kind of shy away, whereas this is easily adaptable by any business owner.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the high level components? Like I'm guessing that. Oh no, you. I won't guess. You tell us about the high level components, please.
Yeah, sure. So the way that I break it down and I like to explain it is there's a couple of different elements of what you need to do as a business owner to have, a healthy financial business, but that clarity of finances. And the first thing is to really understand quickly how to download your financial reports and actually interpret them in a way that makes sense. So the first thing that we actually do is we teach business owners how to download their reports from Xero or their accounting software and read them and understand what their average income is, what their average cost of sales, their average operating expenses are, and then what they've been able to pay themselves and have a profit at the end of the day. So that's the first step, is giving them that clarity, because you can't do much without that clarity. And the numbers, sorry, go.
And is it the case that, like a lot of software and tech, that there's all this functionality available on Xero or on Mile, but most people either don't touch it, let somebody else deal with it, or just never get to understand that you can do all this stuff with.
Yeah. And
it's easy.
So easy. Like I teach people, I can literally break down any business and understand their overarching financial health. I know their numbers in 20 minutes. And I teach business owners how to download the reports, export it to a Google Sheet, understand their averages in like 15 or 20 minutes. It's not hard, but people just don't know how to do it. And they think that it's too above their head, but they just haven't been given the simple process.
Yeah, something that I think just getting a bookkeeper is a great thing, and then having that, pass on to the accountant so you can prepare your returns. But I unpick business financials also every day in terms of understanding value or, sale value, or where a business is positioned to grow. And yeah, there's a step before even a bookkeeper, which is, I think it's on owners to understand themselves download 12 months worth of debits and credits off your bank statement even, or your core management accounting feed, and just take a look at it and say, maybe I don't understand, but get some answers, and before you just kind of ship up responsibility and say, get everything organised so I can pay my taxes.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you how many business owners I come across, and I mean on a weekly basis, that just have no idea how they're performing, and they leave it in the hands of their bookkeeper to tell them at the end of the month or something if they've made any profit or what's going on. And I used to be in that way myself. I had no idea how we were performing, and now that I see how easy it is, I'm like, it's a crime not to actually take the responsibility of your business. Your bookkeeper isn't the one that's spending the money at the end of the day, and they're not making the decisions. So as the business owner, it's basically the number one, obviously bringing money in as the marketing, but also just understanding the cash flow. Like, that's business basics 101. And I don't say that condescendingly, because trust me, I've been in the other position. I have.
Yes. And looking at your bank account isn't managing cash flow.
No, it's not. It's not at all. And I guess that second step of Profit First, if you're happy for me to go into it, is so it's firstly getting that awareness, but then secondly, it's setting up a process for how you manage your cash flow, and that's by opening up multiple bank accounts. So we actually are really passionate about the fact that every business owner needs 5 bank accounts to manage their cash flow with clarity. And the reason for that is when your cash flow is all lumped together, 90% of business owners can't see how they're actually performing. When there's money in the bank, they're like, great, there's cash flow there, let's do it. But often they're forgetting about the fact that the taxes are in that amount of money, and their owners pay, and the profit. And so it's this false sense of security, and they think that they're more profitable than they actually are. So by separating out their cash flow into the four different categories essentially that we're absolutely responsible for, you've got that financial awareness, and you're protecting yourself from spending your money in the wrong way.
Okay, we will get into those the four areas, but I mean, it's pretty easy to open accounts and manage them.
Yep,
So
definitely.
that shouldn't be a barrier. Kind of, sounds like a lot of things, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward. What are those 4 or 5 account? Are they a bit like the old jars? We had a jar for
Pretty
groceries
much. It's pretty easy, really. Like there's 5 main accounts, and I say 5 because we like to separate and have a separate account for our income as well. That's pretty important, because then you've got that control of your cash flow when it's all in one account, and then you can actually allocate it into the other accounts as necessary. But basically the accounts are an income account. That's where all of your cash flow comes into, as I said. And then you separate it between a tax account, a profit account, owner's pay, and operating expenses. So we actually separate it up using average percentages, because another barrier is people don't really understand how they're performing, because their cash flow can be so up and down. But if you work on average percentages, then it's really easy to use those percentages for 3 months and just go for it, just separate it out. And it does average out over time, and you can adjust them up and down as you need to. But that's the way that we find it works best.
Yeah. So on today's edition of Small Business Banter, chatting with Amy Bett about cash flow management. Amy, do you see a reluctance sometimes to get started because it's really hard to estimate what your operating expenses are? Is that one of the kind of barriers to getting started on something which seems so practical and so helpful?
Yeah, I see a few different barriers. That's definitely one of them. People just aren't aware of how they're performing, which is why we use those average percentages. We look at the previous history, the previous 12 months, 6 months, even 3 months if you've got it, and then we understand what your average percentages are, and we start there. That's one barrier. The other barrier is people think that they're going to have to do a lot of extra accounting or bookkeeping work by having multiple accounts, and that's just not the case either. It's really only additional internal transfers that you do. So when you're transferring from your income account into your other account, you basically have to reconcile those internal transfers. But just by adding in a description, it just makes it super simple.
Yeah.
And then bank account fees. But there are so many banks that offer no fee or low fees for multiple bank accounts. And if you think about the financial clarity and protection you're setting up, it's absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah. Look, you don't want to get tripped up by having to borrow on an overdraft or an expensive form of finance to cover GST or to cover something that, if it was parked when you first get it in the right other account, then I think the potential savings, and in terms of potential finance costs, but also, as you say, in terms of feeling clarity and some sense of serenity that as good as you can do it, you've got all your bills covered, and that's that being in that frame of mind is pretty healthy.
Oh, absolutely. And I think people just think that it has to be perfect from the get-go. And it doesn't have to be. It's more about, getting in there and taking action and setting it up the best way that you can with those numbers. And then you can just adjust it, adjust those percentages up and down every week until it really is working for you. And then you're off to, you're off to a flying start.
Yeah. So that's the call out, isn't it? We just, to, even if it seems like a bit of extra work initially, it probably is. The upside is you're on top of your finances, and you better understand your business, and maybe sleep a little easier knowing that as good as you can do, you've kind of carved out the money to the ATO and to yourself and to for all your expenses. So
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've learned is that numbers don't lie. They actually, like, they're black and white, right? And so when you do a cash flow analysis and you break down, by those categories that I mentioned, your income, profit, operating expenses, tax, and owner's pay, when you see the numbers broken down like that in percentages, it's very, very simple to see what's not working in the business.
yeah,
Whether or not you've got, you're paying too much in expenses, or you're just not bringing enough revenue to begin with, or you see where that bottleneck is. And that's the clarity that most business owners don't have. But then guess what? Once you've got the clarity, you can fix it.
yeah. Very, very illuminating, and it's a need to know sort of thing. Um, what kind of owners do you deal with or work with, Amy?
Funnily enough, I threw myself right in the deep end. And
Yeah,
I was like, I'll work with anyone that needs help. So I work with startups that really are just trying to work out how to set themselves up from the get-go. And that, takes some forecasting in there, and we can reverse engineer it, their expenses, to forecast out how much revenue they need to make and things like that to make their business healthy. I also work with business owners that make multi-millions of dollars. And the funny thing is, the process is exactly the same. And it's worth noting that just because business owners are making millions of dollars, it doesn't mean that they are financially healthy. I've seen business owners that are making, $3 or $4 million a year that could fall over in the next couple of months because their operating expenses are so high. So I think there's that misconception of more money equals more wealth. It definitely doesn't.
yeah. There can be this sort of perpetual. I think it's a trap, or to keep finding more, keep growing. If you keep adding expenses, and you really got to ask the question, what for, and more importantly, what do I really want out of my business, and knowing what the numbers are is very helpful to making those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, because as revenue grows, so do those expenses. Like you just said, there's a need for more staff, more gear, more everything, which is not a bad thing
Yeah.
if you're focusing on the profit at the same time and growing sustainably and scaling sustainably.
Yeah. So it's one of the points where I usually end up when I start working with owners is take a look at their numbers, more about profit and loss, rather than just pure cash flow. I know cash flow is king, or queen, whatever, but that it's then you start to understand the upside of knowing your numbers better, because often, as an example, even a smallish business it can be the owner's business, but when you break it down, it's actually 3 or 4 different types of businesses within one company structure or one trust structure, and it's, for them, it's their business. But when you say, well, really, that's wholesale, that's retail, that's servicing or something, and potentially, if you are getting really, if you're overall losing cash or you're not profitable, maybe it's a case of just chopping a bit of it, but
And focusing on
you've got
one.
to, yeah, and you've got to know your numbers before you do that.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's similar kind of line. I was working with a guy, actually. My business, for anyone that doesn't know, is called Lady Without Limits. But a guy came to me and he said, I'm not a lady, but can you help me anyway? And I'm like, absolutely. And we looked at his numbers, and we looked at also the profit margins between the different services that he offers. And we worked out that if we just switched the focus from one that was more labor intensive, took longer, and also it costs more in parts, to the other service that is less in labor, costs less, and he can churn them out quickly, we realized that we could scale his business up to $1 million business quite easily just by flipping. The demand was there. He had the demand, but it was just flipping the way that he looked at it. One was more of an expensive service, but the other one was just so easy to churn out. So when you can kind of look and analyze the numbers more, you just know where to put your focus and your time and your energy, and what is the thriving, I guess, service in your business.
Yeah, and it's where a really good advisor, sometimes not necessarily an accountant, but it can be, or sometimes a bookkeeper or a coach, or even an advisory board. We can get that analysis of your business from a different perspective, and because we all get caught up and it's like, well, it's this, but it's actually, it might be three or four different things. And if you want to get a better return and you want to work less hours and or you want to scale, just knowing your numbers is so vital.
Yeah, it is. And there's different layers, as you said. You can go and do your standard, like looking at your profit and loss and your balance sheet and breaking down the high level numbers. But then it gets really fun when you go, okay, well, if we need to increase revenue, then what are our services and what are the profit margins? And you can go really into a deep level. But that's probably, as you said, where an advisor or a coach or somewhere of the likes can really help you to do that. Because sometimes, as you said, you're in it and you need an outside perspective that doesn't have all of the emotion involved in it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think absolutely right. Also, not waiting until the end of the financial year to get your tax return or your quarterly BAS to kind of drive the business. It's got to be much more, it can be much more up to the minute, not just looking at your bank account, as you said earlier, but certainly, some other metrics and analysis, can be, because you've got to make decisions every day. And
yeah, you do.
If you're investing energy in the wrong area or time and money in the wrong area, it's a bit of a pity. You don't want to wait too long to find that out. Creeps up on you, as we've all had that experience.
Yeah, we have.
Outside of profit first, you've got at least one other venture that I know. I'm interested in just briefly what that is, and also how you go about running and sustaining yourself in business.
Yeah, sure. So it was this time last year pretty much that I was lucky enough to go on this trip to Bora Bora and have this amazing experience where I was focusing on my health and wellness and came back feeling absolutely amazing. And then the next weekend I had my best friend's wedding and had a 3-day bender on alcohol and just felt rubbish. Anyway, I was, having conversation with my coach in America, and she was like, have you ever heard of Kava? It's from the Pacific Islands and there's this tonic here and you drink it, tastes rubbish, but it gives you a similar effect, relaxes you. It's non-alcoholic, so you don't feel awful. For stressed and busy mums and busy professionals who, need a release, this is really good. Yeah. Anyway, so it was like this fireworks moment for me. One of my really close friends, her father owns a kava farm in Vanuatu. And so it just basically sparked this whole idea as if we could make the kava taste good, if we could extract it in a way that tastes really good and put it into a really pleasurable drink, then we've got something, because there's nothing out there like it in the market. So we went on that journey and we formulated it in Melbourne first, and we realised we could do it, which was just so exciting. And so rather than wait for our government to release the regulations around kava, which it's close, it's about 6 months away, we decided to get it out in the States first and have a crack over there. And so we've gone through the whole process, and we're launching in about 10 days. It's so exciting.
Yeah,
and so,
to you.
Yeah, thank you. We can't wait for it to get off the ground. I think it's good. I'm really excited to kind of take the principles of profit first and implement it into that business and really show people how I'm walking the talk and showing them how you can do it from a startup all the way through to a business that hopefully scales as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned in there you have a coach that you use who's based out of America. So that's really, tell me just quickly about that relationship.
So I guess I've been doing a lot of personal and professional development for the last 3 years. After my husband had his brain injury, I realized that, the buck really falls with me to be the financial provider of our family. And so I decided to put money and investment behind me and my knowledge. And that meant learning from people who have gone before me and that are actually really successful. And a lot of those entrepreneurs that I look up to are in the States. So I decided to put money behind that and get some really phenomenal coaches in, digital marketing and I guess coming back, and also mindset and the likes. But where you said, how do I run both businesses? My Lady Without Limits is an online course where it's, people come in and they do the tutorials, and I have 2 calls a week with my members in a Facebook group, which makes it, easier to manage. And I've got an amazing VA who helps to keep everyone in check.
Yeah. Okay. Look, America is the well of a lot of stuff on personal development, professional development. So, look, that's been excellent. We will in the notes put links to what we've talked about here. So, what is the name of
It's called Mellow.
Mellow?
Melo.
Of course, it's called Mellow.
So
great.
it mellows you out. The type of kava that we put in the drink is all from the farm. It's an amazing quality kava. It's actually the mellow plant as well. So it's really got a resonance to what we're doing.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, yeah. Well, that's exciting. It can be exciting to track. Look, I really appreciate your time, Amy. You've got a lot going on, so thank you. If people wanted to talk to you, reach out. Is it through Lady Without Limits, or you on LinkedIn? What is it?
Yeah, so I've simplified everything. I've got a website called amybet.com, amybet.com. I've got a free masterclass on there, which you can go and watch. It's an online masterclass. We can learn the step-by-step process of how to set up a cash flow system in your business. I'm sure my contact details are on there too if you need to reach out.
Okay, excellent. It'll be in the show notes. But Amy, thanks so much for that. Very practical and very helpful.
Thank you so much, Michael. Love the chat.